You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from SBUX. The Option Block is brought to you by SBUX. When it comes to trading volatility, trust SBUX, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. SBUX's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back here on the old network, back in the Chicago studios, back from our trip down to yet another Southern studio, this time for Nashville. Had a fun time out there. Lots of interesting guests, panels, conversations, people beaming into our regular shows from Nashville. It was all sorts of fun. Hopefully you checked it out. If you're on the pro side, you got stuff hitting you already. You got some panels hitting you up there. You got some of the interviews hitting you already. That'll be trickling out to the full network in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. So if you did miss Nashville, I know a lot of you can't make it down to Nashville. Of course, maybe you're just not in the biz. You're not interested in the deep, hardcore elements of the options market. I get it. But there are some elements maybe you want to check out. Well, we got it all there for you, coming to you completely for free because we like you folks over there. Check it out. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go to get info and all that fun. You can also see interesting back archives for OIC going back, over a decade now, I think. I've been going to OIC for years, and I told them years ago, I was like, you guys do these great panels, and people may be interested in them beyond just the people who attend this show. Maybe you should let me record them and put them out to the world. So that's exactly what we do. We have archives going back nigh on a decade, if not longer. Check all that out. New stuff will be hitting the site over the coming weeks. So stay tuned for all that. Of course, if you want to get access to the stuff early, get access to, of course, exclusive shows, all the live stuff we do out here, pro early releases. We're coming up actually today. Wow, today is May 1st. So we are already looking at the time here, listeners, for the April Pro Trading Crate. Wow, man, April just flew by. Barely tasted it, listeners. So hopefully you were active in the Pro for the month of April, because if you were, your name is automatically entered in the hat to win for the April Pro Trading Crate. If you weren't, you want to get active for the month of May so you can have your name in the hat next time. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we see, actually, no, before we get to that, I'm getting ahead of myself again. It's Monday. I get excited, listen. All right, it's that time, listeners. We are commencing our broadcast week here. We do it in high style. I am joined today. It's going to be interesting because I think he's going to build on his lead a little bit today. The Pit Boys are on their way to Chi-Town. So we will be seeing them. You'll be hearing them live in the same room on Thursday when we do the Option Block Live on Thursday from their pit extravaganza. So look forward to that, but they are on planes right now. So no Pit Boys joining us. So it's an Uncle Mike solo show today here on the network, which is interesting, which means he may be looking to extend his, I'd be very surprised, let's put it this way, if he did not extend his lead today, because I think today's question is right up his alley. By the way, we did an audit of all the shows previous to make sure we have up to the minute totals, listeners. And as we stand right now in this epic contest here for 80s wrestling bragging rights, the winner, Uncle Mike, with 9 points. He's in the lead right now, followed by the Meatball at 5 points for the Meatball. So he's got some ground to cover, probably more after today. And bringing up the rear is the Rock Lobster with an actually respectable 2 points. Somehow the Rock Lobster managed to get 2 points in this contest. All right, let's go. Let's see how many Uncle Mike can rack up today. All right, listeners, let's do it. 80s wrestling trivia. My son was homesick this morning, so I said, hey, you're a wrestling fan. Why don't you help come up with this week's 80s wrestling trivia question? To his credit, he came up with a good one. So you have a financial show. Let's do a financial-themed wrestling trivia. So there was a team, listeners, made up of two 80s wrestlers. Technically, this team was actually formed in the early 90s, but they are 80s wrestlers, so we will count it today. There was a team known as Money Inc. Uncle Mike, who were the members of Money Inc., sir? Can you name them?
The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and his partner was Erwin R. Shyster, also known as Mike Rotundo.
Yes, I would be. You've mentioned both of them the past many times. I would be surprised if you didn't get that one. I kind of thought that was an Uncle Mike softball. I figured maybe the Meatball would be here to contest it a little bit, but alas, he is not. So all the points go to you, a full point. Let's go for a half point, Mr. Uncle Mike, a half point bonus question. Some fun ones. You mentioned the $1 Million Man. He's a fun one. He had a valet. What was the name of $1 Million Man's valet?
Virgil?
Yes. Yes. All right. Half point for Uncle Mike. And here's another fun kind of deep cut one, which I didn't even remember until I saw this morning. The $1 Million Man technically actually was WWF champion for a brief time. How did he get the belt, sir?
He paid Andre the Giant to get it. There was he actually, well, kind of. So there was kind of a story to that. So he wanted to buy the belt from Hulk Hogan, and he did. Hulk Hogan sold it to him because Hulk Hogan said, I'm getting old. I need to think about my retirement. And Hulk Hogan sold it to him. And there was a big controversy on it. And then he would essentially, I think he paid Andre the Giant to get it. It was something along those lines.
Wow, a deep cut. And you went there, sir. Well done. Yes, you are correct. It actually was the rematch from WrestleMania 3, the infamous match where, of course, Hogan slammed Andre. This was the official rematch, so it still is to this day. It might be, maybe outside of WrestleMania, is like the most watched wrestling match on television history. Like 35 million people watched this thing of the rematch between Hogan and Andre. And yes, of course, $1 Million Man bought the belt off Andre. I think he put a petition out a couple of years ago because WWF does not recognize his title reign as being legitimate. And so he put out a petition to recognize him as an actual champion because he did defend it once at like a house show in Poughkeepsie or something. So there you go. A little bit of deep cut trivia. Uncle Mike coming strong. That puts him up now to 11 points, a commanding lead. The Meatball has his work cut out for him as we head right into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, let's do this. Let us commence operations here on the old OB. That's another one of those days, listeners. We start kind of trending in one direction, and then the market moves in the other direction. Stop me if you've heard this before. Today, all the indices tried to sell off early, right coming into the start of the show, pretty close to it. We still had a little bit of red on the screen. Now all that is gone. The S&P up about 1/3%. The Dow up about 1/3%. NASDAQ up about 1/4%. That means all of our vol friends, man, listeners, they are coming for the vol today. If you had a 15 handle coming into the start of the week, you are winner chicken dinner. 1560. That's where the VIX was when we kicked off the show. Man, 15 handle in the VIX, listeners. We are talking about some rarefied air out here, at least for the pandemic era. Obviously, pre-pandemic 15 was pretty impressive level in and of itself. These days, it has a whole new context of it, especially when we've kissed 35 pretty close to it within the past year. In fact, almost exactly a year ago, we were at 34 3/4. Quite the year for vol out there. 1560, down about 1.5 points from our Thursday show, which was coming at you from Nashville. VVIX, though, still frothy, still about an 87. That's about unchanged from Thursday, even though that is down from the nearly triple digits it was not too long ago. So it has come in from there, but it's hanging tough since Thursday. We'll see if VVIX evolves by the Thursday show. VXX starting to do what it was supposed to do again. 36.5, down another 2.5 points. So, man, it is giving up the ghost quickly. Perhaps not as aggressively as our friend UVXY, which seems just destined to want to just dive headlong to zero. 3 1/3 right now, listeners, down about 1/3 of a point since our Thursday show. So this thing, I don't know what their plan is with this. I guess it is to allow it to go to zero because it keeps getting lower. The ADV continues to dry up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing. SBUX, almost a 20, 1980 when we kicked off the show. That's up 1.15 points. Let's see if it got, it kissed it. 1999. Couldn't quite break the 20, listeners. 1999 for SBUX. I know a lot of you are starting to get interested in SBUX. Maybe you hold the underlying, maybe even looking at some upside calls and things. An interesting day out there, kissing the 20 handle for SBUX today, listeners. UVIX going in the other direction, obviously. 1030, down about 1.5 points. And VolQ, the NASDAQ vol, at an 18, down nearly 2 points, 1.8 points from where we were this time on Thursday. Let's see how we're looking historically going back a year here for VolQ. Yeah, I knew we were at the lows for VIX, obviously. It stands to reason we were threatening those lows for VolQ, and that is indeed the case. 18 even. We got to go back quite a ways to find an 18 handle. Got to go back to about October of 2021, listeners. That's when we got down to about a 16, actually a 1580 in vol. So people don't think of that low level for vol in the meme stock palooza year, but we did kiss it. Actually, earlier in the year, we got down to a 14 in August for VolQ. And then, of course, that was all she wrote. We got back up into the 30s and haven't looked back until today. So intriguing times out here for vol across the board. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if you want to regale us with any other memories of clearly your favorite tag team, who cares about the Road Warriors? It's all about Money Inc. Sir, any thoughts about them? And then B, what is catching your eye out there in the markets today, sir?
So Mike Rotundo, before he went bad and went to the became IRS or our shyster, he actually was part of my early favorite, my pre-Road Warrior favorite tag team of the team of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. When they wrestled at WrestleMania 1, they were really patriotic. They came into Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, but definitely a fan of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. In terms of Money Incorporated, they really had an interesting way of drawing heat in that. And that was back in the day when people actually paid their taxes. People don't really pay them anymore, I'm convinced. I think that just, I don't know if all Americans actually pay their taxes anymore. I think statistically speaking, it's less than half. But back at that time, when people paid their taxes, he would always come up and talk about how it's important to pay your taxes and how you should pay more in taxes. And people really didn't like that at the time. So it was a very fun tag team to watch. Ted DiBiase, I mean, the way that he worked his gimmick with the $1 Million Man, everybody has their price, and how he would go around to public places and he got like a public pool to shut down because he paid the owner of the pool and kicked all the kids out because he wanted to just sit there and enjoy the sun himself, and it showed all the kids around the fence watching him being really mad at him. But hey, everyone has their price. And that was Ted DiBiase's motto on life, apparently.
Really quickly to tie it back to your favorite tag team, the Road Warriors, aka the Legion of Doom. Money Inc. actually took the belts off them. That's how they got it at a house show, no less. because one of your favorites tested positive for something shady. And so they had to make it audible on the fly at the house show. And so they took the belts off them at a house show and put it on Money Inc. And they were the tag champs for a while. So there you go, sir. A little bit of tying your two favorite teams together.
It all ties together. So, I mean, and Ted DiBiase, he would definitely be in one of my top 5 for all-time favorites, just with what he did and how he drew heat. He was amazing with that. So, and I guess they all tie together in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes these people, they aren't the most honorable of characters, but I do know that Road Warrior Hawk at least found Christ in the end of his life and is likely up in heaven right now looking down on us. So
DiBiase's been indicted. They just charged his son a couple of days ago in that massive fraud that involves Brett Favre as well. So yeah, the DiBiase's not that great pro wrestling either.
Well, but I think for Ted DiBiase is denying wrongdoing and is claiming a witch hunt. So, but we'll see.
I don't know. I think the $1 Million Man may have been involved. Color me as biased from the 80s, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's like, I'm a firm believer in innocent till proven guilty. When he's guilty, if he is guilty, then he's guilty. But we live in America. I'll just leave it at that for now. But I'll put it this way: I'm hoping that he's innocent.
Yes, I'm with you there. I don't want him to be guilty of this heinous fraud. It would be horrible.
But like they say sometimes, hope rhymes with dope. So maybe who knows? So, but anyway, in terms of these markets. We actually we have a big week this week with the Fed announcement coming out on Wednesday, the meeting tomorrow, and then the announcement coming out on Wednesday. Still a lot of earnings to be had this week. So it looks like we're still in wait and see mode. But what's interesting about this wait and see mode is that we are knocking on the door of highs of the year. So in other words, with the S&P 500, the high of the year, I believe, is 41.95. And we're at 41.82 right now. And so we'll see if the bulls have enough steam to push through that, or this could be just setting us up for a massive sell-off because we have something the market doesn't like at the Fed announcement, and the earnings aren't exactly what the market likes. So this is very much a wait and see. It could go either way type of market. Now, I know that you could say that about any market anytime ever, but when you have all these factors, you have earnings, you have the Fed, and you have the highs of the year staring you in the face, a lot can happen. And so if, let's say, the earnings are good and the market likes what the Fed says, and I don't even know what the market would like, quite frankly. If the market sticks to 25 basis points, or I'm sorry, if the Fed sticks to 25 basis points, does that mean that, okay, they're not going up 50, so inflation's okay, let's bulls, here we go? Or do they think, oh, crap, they're not pausing, so let's sell off? So I really don't know what's going to be good or bad news. I think it's going to have a lot to do with how it's stated and what they actually say. But unsure as to where that's going to go, because if we do break through the 41.95 mark, we break through the 4,200 mark, because let's use that as an even number just above it, then we have no resistance, at least from this year. The next point of resistance, from what I can tell, is over 4,300. That was from almost a year ago in July. And so when you have those things factored in, will 41.95 act as resistance? Will the Fed and earnings create some type of a sell-off? Or will this be the final thing needed to break through that mark? This is going to be an exciting week, I have a feeling, one way or another. Unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly which way it's going to go. So manage risk and position yourself accordingly, like a good option trader should do. In terms of other markets, we are selling off a little bit in the bonds today with the 10-year down. In terms of the actual sectors themselves, with where we're at, like I said earlier, it's kind of a flat day throughout the market. Energy is actually down 1.3%, with XLE down around the 84 level. Everything else, well, I guess technically consumer discretionaries are down a little bit, but everything else is higher. So it appears that energy and consumer discretionary are what are holding back this market from going up a little bit further on it. And then a couple of names of note. JP Morgan, looks like they are taking over First Republic, and the stockholders like that, or the bulls like that. JP Morgan's up over 2% on the day, so that's one stock of note. Also, we have Microsoft continue. Microsoft's not up so much today, but has been on a royal tear lately, back over the 300 mark. So we are getting some action in some stocks with where we're at in this marketplace. And then, of course, in the futures world, we have Bitcoin below 30,000 again. Excuse me. We have oil. Of course, oil is down. We talked about energy a couple moments ago. Natural gas is down a little bit, only 4.5%, which that is a little bit for a natural gas move on a day. And my beloved silver was up quite a bit at the open today, but it sold off a little bit into trading. SLV, looking at that, it's down 6 cents on the day, but at 22.93, but it was up as high as 23.69 on the day. So not getting a lot of major moves today, but it does appear that we are setting up for some major moves this week. So stay tuned and manage risk.
Indeed, a lot of show for you to stay tuned to. Listeners, let's get on out there to the major indices, see how they're faring today. Let's start in the vol land. We'll start with VIX. VIX looking decent today, 422,000 contracts. That's nothing to sneeze at. The ADV back up over 700K, if ever so slightly. 706 right now is your ADV in VIX land. It seems like we're on track to probably threaten that today. You never know. Second half of the session, always unpredictable. SPY, 4.63 million. The ADV a little over 8.1. So both of these ADVs starting to tick back up again, listeners. The S, 1.5 million exactly right now. The ADV out there, 2.6 million. Let's look really quickly. Let's fire up the old Flowmaster machine. Let's see if, yes, of the top 20 in the SPX, again, listeners, all 20. I think it's just pretty much a given at this point. All 20 are expiring today. If we expand it to 40, let's see. I see 1, I see 2, I see 3, I see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dare I say it? 10. Wow, 12. 12 in the top 40. Not expiring today. That's actually a lot. Usually you expect it to average out somewhere around 5. Sometimes it's all 40 of the top 40 are expiring today. But somehow 12 contracts are making it into the top 20 today, or top 40, that are not expiring today. Let's look really quickly. The most active non-zero DTE contract in the S right now, we have 8,700 of the June 4,000 puts going up today. So intriguing stuff out there in the S. Small caps looking decent right now. 560,000 contracts on the tape. Still, it's got a bit of a ways to go if it's going to make that 1 million level. But hey, we shall see. It's over halfway there. So if it can maintain this momentum for the second half, I'm kind of surprised how long that ADV has held up in small caps. Usually it surges over 1 million, maybe over 800,000. It kind of comes right back down. It's been hanging out north of 1 million for quite some time. So small caps in another tier right now from a volume perspective. And the Qs, you expect volume from them. 1.6 million on the tape right now. The ADV a little bit shy of 3, 2.8. It used to be a little bit north of 3. It has given some of that up. If we keep hitting these levels again, we'll be back up north of 3 in no time. Let's go out to the single names, listeners. Let's see what's lighting us up out there today. We got our usual assortment out here, but it is a hot earnings week, so we got some others sneak it in there, which is always fun. Kind of mixes up our top 10. Not that we don't love our AMDs and our Amazons and our Apples and all that fun, but let's see if we can find some other friends to play with today. Let's start at number 10, AMC. This one's kind of becoming a bit of a frequent offender lately as well. 204,000 contracts on the tape today. Again, AMC off to a whopping 2 cents right now, trading right around 5.5. It's like they drove it down earlier today to 538. Now right back up to pretty much unch. So interesting day out there for AMC, but not a ton going on right now. But decent paper, enough to break into the top 10 today. Number 9, another frequent offender. This one just had a banger announcement last week, listeners. They went from 209 all the way up to 234, trading 240 right now. This is Meta Platforms, of course. Our old friend, the artist formerly known as Facebook, good for 222,000. We'll have to check on Options Oddities. Is our friend loading up back on those upside calls? He was doing all right on that for a while after he got run over in the wrong direction back in November. His persistence seems like it has paid off. Hopefully he was in there to capture that move last week. That was quite the banger. Number 8, out to the land of on-demand cars, listeners. It is Uber, 32 3/4, up $1.75 today. So things looking good for good old Uber out there. Good for 232,000 contracts on the tape today. Number 7, Chip Zone, coming a little bit early, listeners, today. AMD, number 7, 244,000 contracts. AMD, 90 1/4, up about 85 cents right now for AMD. Number 6, here we go. Here's some new folks slotting into the top 10. We've got Snap. You know, it's earnings season when Snaps make it into our top 10. They don't usually do it outside from their appearances around their earnings call. When they can move, right now, not moving too much, off about a nickel. Trading $8.66 right now, but they're good for 286,000 contracts today. So Snap, they're gearing up. We talked about it before. What is Snap at this day? Is it still a social media? Is it a technology name? Are they a canary in the coal mine for the rest of the social media space? We can view it a lot of different ways out there right now. Hanging out at $8.66. We'll get more into them in a little bit when we break down all the earnings data. Number 5, listeners. Yes, you may know them from their stadium. SOFI, 381,000 contracts, trading $5.66. They're coming for them today, off about 60 cents. Of course, they had a drubbing in all the madness last month. Let's see, how low did they get? Actually, it looks like they're pretty much threatening their lows, pretty much at their lows. Their low was 564 for the month. If you go back farther, they got lower. They got in the madness, they got down to around the 560 level, and seems like they're back there again, 564 right now. If we go all the way back on them, their nadir actually came in December of last year, 4 1/4. So they are obviously above that, but a rough day today, coming off nearly 10%, 60 cents out there for good old SOFI. And then got number 4. Yes, I said number 4, listeners. Fruit Company getting knocked down off its perch again. Apple, 407,000 contracts. Another light day. Apple back at 170. So let's go back and check our poll back when they were in the middle of that range. We were asking you, what are they going to kiss first? 52-week low of 124.17 or 52-week high of 176.15? Seems like the writing's on the wall for that one now, even though I'm pretty sure most of you faded it the other way. We'll have to go check to find out. Maybe we can see if we can find that data to retweet it out there. But threatening right now, back up north of 170, listeners, up about 40 odd cents today. 170.10 or so right now. Not that far away from 176.15, listeners. Is that where we are? Are we back at pretty much all-time highs for Apple days? It's crazy to even say that kind of stuff aloud, but that's where we are right now, listeners. Number 3, Amazonians, 597,000 contracts, 102.85 off 260. So, hail of two names there, Apple rally and Amazon coming off today. Good again for 597,000 contracts. Number 2, Chip Zone, coming a lot higher the second half than usual. NVIDIA, number 2, 709,000 contracts, up 11 handles or nearly 4%. Trading 288 and about a half right now. My goodness, NVIDIA, the rampage continues. They're pretty much at there. I think they might have, they said it this morning. They said a new 52-week high this morning of 289.15. So, my goodness, this thing has just been on a freaking tear. It was 143 to start the year. Their nadir actually came October of last year, right around 108, 108.13. My goodness, quite the run from there, more than doubling, almost tripling. 709,000 contracts. And then number 1, you know what it is, even though it's a light day, listeners. It's Tesla, 879,000 contracts. Tesla selling off again today. 161.90 off about 241.5%. So intriguing day for Tesla. A lot closer to that 52-week low of 101.81 than they were, let's say, a month ago when they were trading right around $200. So obviously they've come under some pricing and other pressures of late. Still a long way to go to get back down to those levels, but 40-odd handle sell-off over the last month. That'll help get you a little bit closer to that. Again, good. A light day for them, too. 879,000 contracts. Intriguing stuff. Right now, the listeners, in addition to the Fed on the horizon, it's all about the earnings right now. So let's sink our teeth into it. Luckily for you, because we like you, we're really the only game in town when it comes to earnings volatility. Out there crunching the numbers for you folks. And beneficent folks that we are, giving it to you for free because we like you. So if you want to arm yourself with some actual data for your trading during earnings season. We got you covered over there, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options, News, and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. Today, of course, we had SOFI popping off. We talked about them earlier. Tomorrow, we got Uber, Pfizer, BP, Marriott, AMD, Ford, Starbucks, and Match. Wednesday, Wingstop and the old WWE. And then Qualcomm. Thursday, we got Portillo's, another frequent offender here on the show. A Bumble, Moderna, some fruit company I never heard of, Coinbase, DoorDash, DraftKings. Man, it's just an embarrassment of riches. And Friday, of course, the apes, the king of the apes. It's AMC on Friday. Let's get to some of these reports for you, listeners. The earnings report right now, hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS. Let's see what numbers we got to crunch for you today. Let's go to Uber first. They're tomorrow before the bell. Not today after the bell. They are tomorrow before the bell. 31.05 is where they were trading when we ran this report. They're pricing in 2 3/4. In the past, they've moved 234. So a little bit of extra juice out there in the old oobs. Is it merited? I suppose it's up to you to determine, listeners. AMD tomorrow after the bell, 89.30. They're pricing in $6.33. In the past, they've moved $4.80. Given these moves we've seen out there, that substantial amount of extra juice. Hard to argue against that. Ford tomorrow after the bell as well. 11.88 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 62 cents. In the past, they've moved 47 cents. What are your thoughts on Ford? Listen, back when it was 25, 26, you guys and gals were all over it. It was a meme stock again. We saw 25, 30 verticals going up. We saw 30 calls going up. It was a lot of outlandish meme stock paper. Obviously, that has cooled. They have divested of that crazy Rivian stake out there and all sorts of other interesting things have happened. 11.88, Ford kind of back to its more normal stomping grounds, been hanging out there for a little bit. What are your thoughts on Ford here? Are you still trading it? Have you moved on to other things? Maybe that might be a good question of the week out there as well. Match, May 2nd after the bell. 36.90 is where they were trading. 332 is what they were pricing in. In the past, they moved 257. So a fair amount of extra juice out there for good old Match. Let's keep rolling. Let's go to Starbucks. Second after the bell. Trading at 114 in about a third. They're pricing in $5.50. In the past, they moved $5.20. So a little bit of extra juice in coffee land out there. CVS, retail drugstores here, listeners. Third before the bell. 73, I should say, in a third. $3, actually $3.10 is what they were pricing. In the past, they moved $2.95. So not a heck of a lot of extra there. Let's go to maybe like yourselves a little bit of chicken wing volatility, huh? Well, Wingstop's got you covered third before the bell. $200 even is where they were trading. In the past, they moved 17.5, and they were pricing in 17.5. So they are pricing in a whole lot of extra nothing. Exactly what we've come to expect out here. Now, WWE, this is a weird one because, of course, they are undergoing a big corporate action as we speak. Of course, we talked about it on the show not too long ago, the merger/acquisition out there with Endeavor. WWE now going to be the junior partner in that entity, which is kind of weird. And they're going to reform that with UFC and maybe some other holdings from Endeavor into this new ticker called TKO. Right now, it's still WWE. They're the third before the bell. 107.20 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $5.25. In the past, they moved $4.62. 107, that's pretty rich. I know they were hanging out not too long ago in the 60s. So nice run here for the old WWE. Let's keep rolling out here. Let's go to, man, there are literally dozens upon dozens of tickers. We'll just kind of skim the surface for you here. Listen, let's go to Qualcomm. Go 116.80 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $6.63. In the past, they moved $8.54. So a hell of a lot of less juice for Qualcomm. Wow, that's interesting, especially what's going on out there. Talks of new IPOs in that sector again, and all sorts of interesting things going on out there. Got Moderna popping off fourth before the bell, 132.90. They're pricing in $7.59. The past, they moved $9.67. So less juice there as well. Wow, over $2 worth of less juice. Go out to Portillo's. Let's go out to Italian Beef Vol. They're on the fourth before the bell, 21.62. Pricing in $1.33. In the past, they moved 92 cents. So a little bit extra juice out there for Italian beef. Some folks might call it burger vol, but who would say such a crazy thing? Who would go to Portillo's for a burger? Some fruit company you never heard of. Fourth after the bell, 169.68 was where they were when we ran this report. They're pricing in $6.36. In the past, they moved $6.77. So taking a little bit of juice out of Apple as well. Listen, that seems to be the narrative here. Less juice. Interesting. Fourth after the bell, I should say. Bumble as well. 18.25 is where they were trading. They're pricing in pretty much $2 even. In the past, they moved almost $3. So cutting nearly a third off the top of their straddle. Wow. Now, Coinbase, I'd be surprised if we see that in Coinbase. They're the fourth after the bell. All this regulatory brouhaha going on around them. 53.75. Yeah, they're pricing in about $5.90. In the past, they've moved $3.76. So a fair amount of extra juice out there in Coinbase. Hard to argue that isn't merited. And, let's get out of here on DraftKings as well. Fourth after the bell. They're trading right around $22. In the past, they've moved $1.96. And I'm sorry, in the past, they moved $2.31. And they're pricing in $1.96. So less juice in DraftKings. Wow. Interesting. Let's do one more for fun. I lied. DoorDash, fourth after the bell. 61.20 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $6.25. In the past, they moved $4.63. So pretty much $1.60, $1.64 worth of extra juice in DoorDash. So we're kind of all over the place this season. Some names really squeezing a lot of juice out. Others adding a fair amount of juice. That is intriguing, listeners. Speaking of the season, where are we hanging out right now, listeners? Let's find out. Oh, yeah, we're back below the buck. We're back below 100%, 95% for the season. Now, remember I said don't get too excited when we were north of 150 in that first week. It's going to come back in, and it does come in pretty hard. Not surprising given the numbers I just said, listeners. A lot of names actually pricing in less juice this cycle. That's going to come to play in these numbers, and it is doing so right now, 95%. So we are back below 100%. So that's quite the move. About 280 firms have reported so far. Many more to come, listeners. Our long-term average is 96, so we're hanging out right around that level. Who knows if these numbers are perhaps to be believed, and if they come to fruition, maybe we will see that average go back down. Interesting, because everyone and their mother, including Matt, has been predicting a very dire, a banger of an earnings season. That won't be the case. Intriguing stuff. We are also monitoring 75 long straddles and 49 long calendars for your earnings trading pleasure. Speaking of trading pleasure, let's get to it. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, here we go, listeners. We're going to get weird. We're going to get wild with the Odd Block. We're getting so weird and so wild that we're waking Uncle Mike up early to do a little Odd Block fun. Mr. Uncle Mike, are you ready? Are you excited for some Odd Block fun today, sir?
What's going on here? What?
Yeah, take your little sleep mask off. You got to wake up a little bit. Have a shot of coffee, some espresso. We're going to dive right into it, sir. We're kicking things off. We're going deep. We're going to Iveric Bio Inc., obviously a biotech listener, ticker symbol ISEE, trading $38 exactly today, up 5.11 or 15.5% on the day. So, yeah, that sounds like a biotech all over the place. A year ago, it was trading 14.25. So, man, they had quite the run. And even they took it even lower. Looks like last year it got down to about $8.85. That was in September of last year. So they've gone from $8.85, listeners, to $38 exactly. My goodness. That's quite a run, including up about 166% just in the past year. Wow. That's a good move. I'm trying to see. Gene therapy, they had a bid, so they got taken over. That makes some sense. They were bought out $5.9 billion from Astellas. That would help explain some of the action we're seeing out there. Perhaps, listeners, perhaps. We shall see. Obviously, folks liking themselves a little bit of action out here in ISEE. In particular, listeners, what we noticed was a 10,000 lot of the SEP 40 calls. I said we're hanging out at 38 even right now. The SEP 40s going up for 50 cents. Again, 10,000. That's a decent clip for this name. Let's see. What is the ADV out here in SEE. I'm going to guess it's a lot less than 10,000. Let's see. ADV 7,600. So it's actually a little bit higher than I thought. So intriguing stuff here for ISEE. The stock was 37.88, so pretty close to right here where these went up. That is a 12 vol. When's the last time you saw someone trading biotech calls on a 12 vol, listeners? It's been a while. There are earnings. They are coming up in a couple of days, but I'm not sure if they matter that much anymore when we've got this takeover deal. I'll have to look and see what the price is, but clearly it's amounting to quite a move here. Mr. Uncle Mike, we don't usually see a lot of people loading up on calls on a name after the deal is announced. Usually if they try to catch it and catch that wave earlier, sir. So what's your take on these decently optimistic ISEE September calls, sir?
It's interesting in that we're roughly, you said the 40s, correct? And it's at 38 right now?
Yes, I did, sir.
Got it. So it's not, for a stock that's moved from essentially 8 to 38, $2 out of the money is not really that far out of the money. And so what I'm thinking is the person that bought these calls is thinking that there might be more to come. And a $2 move between now and September, I don't think that's that unreasonable, considering it has gone from the 8 to 38. So I don't know. I mean, I know absolutely nothing about this stock, but the strategy itself, the fact that you only have to pay 50 cents to actually get to be a part of this, I kind of like this. If I was bullish on this, and once again, I know absolutely nothing about the stock, but if I was bullish on this for over that time frame, I don't think that's a bad idea.
I just looked it up. Guess what the takeover price per share is, sir? Take a wild guess.
Well, if that's the case, then I'll say 41.
40. Yeah, it's 40. So this guy is betting we're going right to his strike. Yeah, interesting. We don't usually see this kind of paper after the deal. And, it could be maybe they have some sort of they're short something. They're trying to hedge, obviously, anything beyond that 40, something happens. It looks like it's a done deal, though. I don't think there's any openings for any other firms to come in and bid it up even further. So intriguing stuff, a pretty sizable flyer, if that is indeed the case. I'll have to look and see if they did this. I don't see any stock blocks going up with this. If that is the case, that would also be weird because you're selling the stock a little bit shy of 38, and you expect it, all things being equal, to go to 40 sometime this year. So I don't know if I like the stock leg of that particularly either. So yeah, it's intriguing. It's not a small amount of money at the end of the day, listeners. So yeah, I don't know. You like this one, listeners? You like throwing some coin around to the tune of about $500,000 on a flyer? We'll keep an eye on this one. A little bit weird. Usually you see this go up maybe a little bit earlier, and speculating on what the strike price is going to be. Maybe they buy the 36s a couple of weeks ago, maybe even the 38s. And then they try to get that pop up to 40, and they get lucky when the announcement comes out. Buying it after the deal when you know the strike price, and buying it at the strike price seems more some sort of protective effort against some sort of outlandish thing. Obviously, there's a lot of deal arb that goes on, listeners. So if this deal gets way out of whack, they could really get hurt. So this could be a protective trade against that. That's really the only lens where it makes some sense. Just straight up throwing the dice on a pop north of 40 and paying a fair amount to do it, 50 cents. I don't know if I love that one. But we've seen crazier things out here. We were just talking about Uber earlier, listeners, in our earnings rundown for the week. Looks like somebody coming to play in Uber here today as well. Uber, like I said, up about $1.70, 5.5% today, trading 32 3/4 on the year. Let's explore the saga that has been Uber. A year ago, $30.40. Then they came for it. It got it down to $19.90, listeners, in June of last year. So that's a nice little rally. They have pretty much, well, from their 52-week high, they almost doubled. They went from $19.90 up to $37.50. That was in February of this year. Since then, they have come back down to earth a little bit, got back down to $29.50. Looks like that was just last week. They have since rallied up to 32 3/4, where they are right now. And looks like we got somebody coming in, Mr. Uncle Mike, and overwriting the hell out of the upside here in Uber. We first noticed someone coming in and blasting it away at 11,647 of the May 39s, getting paid 14 cents to do that. That's a 54 vol still. Obviously, it's substantially out of the money. It's a 39. We're at 32 3/4 right now. That was right on the bid. And then the earnings are tomorrow before the bell, obviously, listeners. Then they came in and did more, a few thousand more here, a few thousands more. Total of 53,000 had gone up by the time we kicked off the show here, listeners. Let's check really quickly. Go out to Uberland, see if they've added any more to their total. Almost 55,000 now. So it looks like a couple thousand more have gone up since we started the show. So yeah, these May 39s, they are clearly the trade du jour out there, listeners. Just a ton of overwriting. It seems like, Mr. Uncle Mike, somebody's sitting on a whole boatload of Uber, and they don't mind letting it go a little bit north of the 52-week high, which is about $37.50, and getting paid not a ton, but 14 cents, 55,000 times. I guess it's not the worst thing either, sir. What say you?
Well, first off, just to add to our previous stock, I was not aware of the 40 mark. So I do want to retract a lot of the things with which I had said, because I was not aware when I was talking that 40 was where the deal was set on that past stock. But in terms of Uber, yeah, I would agree. If someone's fine unloading it at 39, why not get paid 14 cents to do it if that's a target of yours? And if you're fine holding it throughout time, then that'll finance the cost of a Ferrari for your girlfriend. Is that the analogy that we still use on this?
That is the Rock Lobster's, shall we say, inappropriate analogy. Yes, sir.
Got it. So that would definitely 14 cents, 50. Yeah, that would give you a decent car. So, yeah, I would say that's there. And if that's just a way with which to sell some total junk and if it turns out to not be junk, then you got a nice gain on your stock. So it's a win-win if that's what you're doing.
It is. You're talking nearly $750,000. So yeah, you can get a nice Lambo and throw in a Model S, something else on the side, and a lot of nice things for that money out there. So there are worse things. I mean, we always talk about the premium levels. It's not the most, and 14 cents isn't the most. But if you're okay selling the stock there anyway, why shouldn't you take nearly $1 million extra bucks off the table? Makes total sense to me. So head on out there. You like this, listeners? Massive overwrite. Somebody does to the 39 level out there in the old oobs. And last but not least, we're going back out to Chinese online education. If you listen to Options Oddities on the pro side, listeners, you know the Rock Lobster and I have had some fun out here in this segment over the years. This is one we haven't traded as much, but we have talked about. This is TAL Education Group, ticker symbol TAL, T-A-L, trading 582 right now, off about 4 cents. Let's see, on the year, it was trading 370 a year ago. They crushed it down to 281. That was looks like it might have been in October. It's hard to tell on this graph. October, or they may have flirted with it again in May of last year as well. Then they rallied it up to $10.50 in December of last year. We're crushing it back down to where it is right now, 582. So, you know, this sector, listeners, it's on, it's off. China shuts it all down. Oh, it's back on again. Chinese education is kind of like the new biotech out there these days. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out there today, listeners. 10,966 of the August 5 puts. I said we're at a 582 right now. Looks like paper blasting away at those for 45 cents. That's a 71 vol. The stock was pretty much exactly here. Remember I said the 52-week low is 281. So we've gotten lured into this in the past. Those puts look nice and juicy. And then you're like, wait a minute. I could easily wear that on this stock again. So intriguing stuff. The next announcement for earnings is July 27th. Mr. Uncle Mike, take us home, sir. What do you think about these line in the sand puts in TAL Education Group?
If the puts are juicy, the puts are juicy for a reason. And I'm typically very wary of juicy puts in terms of selling them. But maybe this person knows something and maybe someone's buying them. But be wary of juicy puts.
Let's just say the Rock Lobster and I found out the hard way that puts in this sector can be juicy for a reason, Uncle Mike. It was a fun learning experience for all involved. We ended up trading out of it and doing all right, but it was interesting at the time. You know what else is interesting, listeners? It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Strategy Block. Uncle Mike time. You know, he's repped and raring to go now after doing all that whole odd block segment as well. Maybe we warm out. We'll have to see if he's got enough energy left. Uncle Mike, you got enough juice left to do a little bit of strategery, sir?
Plenty of juice left for our listeners, as always. So today what I want to talk about, I recently saw my monthly article on my website. I just tweeted it out at Mike TOSAW. If you want to look at this, is when does the long term become the short term? So in other words, we're programmed to invest for the long term, meaning you buy a stock and you hold it, you buy a fund or an ETF, you hold it for a long time. And historically, that's done very well. But the question that comes up is that at what point does the long term become the short term? So the simple answer, of course, is when the part of your long term isn't long anymore and it becomes short. So in other words, if you have a 30-year holding period, when you have roughly 1 year left, your long term has become short term. But on a different note, how can you actually apply that to retirement savings? And also, how can this work with option trading? Well, one thing that a lot of advisors do is they like to take their clients out of stocks and put them into bonds. And nothing wrong with that. I have bond exposure myself for my clients. But what if you have a year like last year when bonds go down along with stocks? That's a problem. Now, if you have a down year with stocks, if you're looking to hold your stock for a longer period of time, you can say, okay, I'm fine with that. I don't need this money right now. But if you're using bonds to get the income and then have that set up for your retirement, or you're looking to maybe sell some bonds, if they go down too, you could be in a pinch. So what's ultimately the solution to all of this? Well, there's a couple of them, but one of the things that I like to do is I like to add an asset class. And the asset class that I believe in, that I use with my clients.
Crypto.
Don't get me wrong.
You're going to say crypto. I know it. I'm putting words in your mouth.
No. But the asset class that I like to mix in there that I think can be very helpful, along with fixed income, along with long-term buy and hold equities, is hedged equity. Now, what are ways with which you hedge equity? Well, you can do it through buying stock and buying a put against it. Of course, you can do this on the index. You can also do it with covered calls. Now, by covered calls, is that really a hedge? No, not exactly. Because of the fact that if you have a covered call on something and the market goes down significantly, then yeah, you got your dollar for the covered call you sold, but if the stock goes down $12, big deal. However, I believe it is a partial hedge in that if you're looking to get income while you're in retirement, while you're in the short-term phase of your life, then the stock goes down, you can still hold the stock, but you can use the covered call for income. Or let's go on the truly hedged side of it. Let's say the stock goes down and you make a profit from the put. You can take the profit from the put, use that for your income, and continue to hold the stock. Now, is this a end-all be-all formula? Good gosh, no. It's something to where you have to have an advisor or yourself that you're working this and seeing what's the most appropriate asset class to take money from to provide for my financial needs while I'm retiring. And what I have found is that if you have hedged equity, whether it's through protective puts or through covered calls, that adds a whole nother aspect to your retirement that can be very helpful. And that is the strategy block for today, the 1st of May.
Yes, May Day, an intriguing one as we keep on rolling right on into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on here. Uncle Mike, you mentioned it's May Day. That was always an interesting time back in the trading floor days because there would always be a legion of protesters assembled around the floor. So you had to walk through them to get to the floor, and they would hurl all sorts of fun things at you because, of course, as a floor trader, you were the engine of the machine of capitalism, sir. So it was an intriguing time to be a trader. Let me just put it out there. But Uncle Mike, we're living in intriguing times right now in terms of earnings and everything else. And, oh, yeah, something called the Fed. I forgot. I don't remember what that is anymore. What's on your radar for the rest of this week?
And I promise you, Mark, I won't throw things at you. But
just virtually through these pipes, you'll throw them at me.
There you go. But we have earnings. We have the Fed, like you said, and just watching all of that. And I think that this is probably a very, very much an around the block type of show as we've had in a long, long time, because this is there's a lot coming up around the block.
All right. Unfortunately, listeners, there's not a lot coming up on the show. That's pretty much it. But if you want more content in your life, and hey, don't tell Uncle Mike, but we talk about a thing called crypto coming up in a little bit. So if you're listening live, we'll be back in about an hour with that episode. Sir, I'll be joined by the folks over there at AT Syscoin. Should be intriguing to find out what's cooking over there. Of course, everyone in the crypto world flying high off all that craziness down at Consensus, so we'll get a sense of that on the show. Obviously, I was down at OIC, a little bit of a different event. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. If you're listening live, stay tuned for that. If you're one of our many on-demand listeners, hey, we love you all. Stay tuned to the network. It'll be hitting the network post-haste. Back again tomorrow with our buddy Mr. Ash Bias to answer all your questions in the Pro Q&A. Wednesday, doubleheader of all things options boot camp. You guys are getting a lot of doubleheaders lately, so look forward to that. If you're on the live, of course, you can join live after the fact. You can get those on the on-demand side. And then, of course, coming back on Thursday for a special live episode. Going to see Uncle Mike in person as well as the pit crew and who knows who else. A live episode of this pit madness, always fun. And Mr. Uncle Mike, in the interim, maybe they want to check out your blog or your tweets. Where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, or check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you are looking for a financial advisor who delves in the option product.
There you go. He does more than delve. He spelunks. He goes really deep into the world of options over there. St. Charles Wealth is the place to go. You know where to go for the pit crew as well at Option Pit. And for all things fun, all things Flowmaster, tradealert.com is the place to go. Like I said, got to get on out of here now. Back again in a bit for Crypto Rundown. Then all that great array of content throughout the week until we're back again live on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.